Good afternoon, everybody. I think it's afternoon now. My name is Carrie Craddock. I'm the Director of Programming for the festival. We're very fortunate to be able to have a Q&A with some special guests today. Before I bring them out, just a few notes. If you have a question, raise your hand high, wave it around. It's a little bit dark to see in the back, so you can stand up if you'd like. If you keep them short, we'll have time for more of them, and I will always do my best to repeat the questions for the benefit of everybody else here. Okay, without further ado, please join me in welcoming to the stage the director and editor of CAPERNAUM, Nadine Labaki and Constantine Bach.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'd like to start off by asking Nadine a question. This project took a long time for you to put together. You had many, many hours of shooting. Can you talk a little bit about the inspiration and then how you sort of began to shape this particular story?
I think I'm not the only one concerned by this problem. I think that is touching a lot of cities around the world, big cities around the world, not only in Lebanon. It's not only a specific Lebanese problem, the sight of all these kids that we see on the streets that are facing extreme neglect. And I think this is something that is touching a lot of people. I'm not the only one concerned or obsessed or angry about it, and angry about the injustice towards these kids that didn't ask to be here and that are sort of being punished for our own mistakes and our stupid conflicts and wars and stupid decisions and stupid systems and governments. So I just wanted to understand in the beginning why did we get to this point, and how do we allow ourselves as human beings, as societies, how do we permit for such injustice to happen? How did we get to this point? How did we get to the point where we are inflicting all this suffering among these children? And I feel the responsibility also. I feel responsible for it. So I decided to turn this anger into something, and my tool is filmmaking. This is what I know. So I decided to make a film about it, because sometimes you feel the problem is so big, so immense. You feel as a human being, as an individual, you're too small to do anything. You're too small. How I can maybe help one kid, two kids. I cannot. It's impossible that I help all these children. So for me, I decided to use cinema because I truly believe in the power of cinema, and I truly believe that a film can change something, or can change a person's perspective towards things, okay? Or at least I might sound too naive, but at least open the debate about it. So I decided to know more, and I decided to do a lot of research, and because I wanted to understand what, if I want to try to be the voice of these children, I needed to understand who they are. I needed to understand what happens to this kid when he disappears around the corner and I don't see him anymore. Where does he go? Who is he? Who is his family? How does he think, and how does he see? What is his perspective towards this problem? Because we tend to, unfortunately, dehumanize these children, and we feel like they belong to a community, to a system, to a mafia, and this is what we tend to think. And no, we shouldn't help, because we are also helping a whole system behind this. So I wanted to just concentrate on this specific child standing in front of my window. What is he thinking? So I saw a lot of kids. I went to many places in Lebanon with my co-writers. We went to the most difficult neighborhoods in Lebanon. We went to prisons for minors, to detention centers. I went to a lot of courts, because I wanted to understand how does the justice system works also, and how does it try to help these children, because there's so many cases. So the idea, after seeing all these kids, came very instinctively. If I want to be the voice of this kid, and I want his voice to be heard, he's going to be shouting out loud something that he's feeling inside, and he's going to be suing the world, because the world brought him to this life. So this is how the idea came, and the idea of this child who's going to sue his parents for giving him life. And through suing his parents, he was also suing a whole system and a whole society. So I decided that I needed to work with real children who went exactly through the same situation or lived the same experience. It was impossible for me to think about asking an actor to act, and I had a problem with the word acting on the shoot. For me, they needed to be exactly who they are, and bring their own experience, bring their own perspective on things, on life, and try to express it through the film. So we needed also to be the vehicle for the film as crew members, a vehicle to them, and not the other way around. So we needed to adapt to their rhythm, to their reality, to their truth, and not the other way. So to be able to achieve this, we needed time to just wait for that amazing moment to happen, wait for Jonas to do a certain thing, or wait for Zain to. So it was, for me, time was essential, and not only time, and really understanding that we needed to be at their service as a crew. And I had, the most amazing crew I can ever dream of, because everybody was so passionate and everybody understood it. So really, we were like, all of us trying to just capture those moments. And of course, there's a written script, there's a solid script, because we needed to, make sure that we're going somewhere, and we needed to, the story needed to make sense. But inside the scenes, we allowed ourselves a lot of freedom, and just allowed life to just surprise us, and those people, those actors, non-actors, to just surprise us also with what they have. So they never had a script to just memorize, and so it was a lot of a choreography between fiction and reality, and everything was always this dance between fiction and reality to be able to get this performance.
I remember you had said that at one point this was a 12-hour long film. So I'm wondering, Constantine, if you could maybe talk a little bit about the experience of working on this to shape what it is now today.
Mm-hmm. We had, just to give you some technical details, we had 500 hours of rushes after 6 months of shoot. And the first cut of the movie took us 6 months to assemble, and it was 12 hours long. And afterwards, we looked at that, and we looked at various formats. Could this be a different form than what you were seeing here this morning? And we went through many different stages of cutting those 12 hours down to condensing what it is now. There is a 5-hour version, there's a great 4-hour version, there's a 3-hour version. They're all very, very different films that maybe one day will see the light of day in
we will.
Some form.
We will show it one day.
Okay, are there any questions in the audience for the people up here? Yes, way in the back row, on this side. Yeah. How did you find Zain specifically? And maybe you could talk about Jonas too.
Yeah.
Who isn't really Jonas, right?
Yeah. We'll get to that. Zain, The casting process is a very specific and difficult casting process because there's no normal auditions like what we usually do. In that case, we had a team of casting recruiters who were amazing and who went really everywhere in Lebanon, interviewing kids, interviewing people who were in this situation, going to slums, going to the most difficult neighborhoods in Lebanon, camps, and really interviewing a lot of people. And Zain was one of the kids that was on the streets of Beirut. He was playing with his friends, and the casting director saw him and interviewed him. And for me, it was. It took really the second answer from Zain to understand that he was going to be Zain, and his initial name in the film, it was named Yahya. His name was Zain. But then when we saw Zain, and I wanted it to be as close to reality as possible, so we decided also that his name was going to be Zain in the film. And also, Jonas is her name is Treasure in real life. She's a girl. Yeah, and she is also exactly like in the film where we met. When we met her, she was actually with her mother on the poussette, on the stroller, in the streets of Beirut, and one of the casting recruiters saw her and interviewed the mother, and filmed the baby. And also, love at first sight for me. She's amazing, and she's also, like in the film, the daughter of 2 migrant workers living in Lebanon at that moment, and they were completely illegal, no papers, nothing. So Treasure was in the same situation that you see in the film, invisible child, no papers, nothing to prove that she exists. So everything is very similar. Most of the things that you see are similar to what they are actually living in real life.
Maybe this is a good point just to maybe update the audience on where they are now. I'm sure people would like to know.
No, there's nice stories. Zain, who is a Syrian refugee. He's been living in Lebanon for the past maybe 8 years. He escaped the war from Syria, so he came to Lebanon. And in Lebanon, he was living in very, very difficult circumstances. As you imagine, there's a lot of refugees in Lebanon, and the situation is very difficult. There's almost 1.5 million refugees in Lebanon, and we are 4 million. So you can imagine the scale of the problem. So most of these families live in very, very difficult conditions and very difficult situations. So when we started shooting, and after the shoot, the father applied to resettlement in a country that would accept the family. And after during the shoot, UNHCR went and interviewed Zain and his family. And 2 days after we came back from the screening in Cannes, we received an official letter from UNHCR saying that Zain and his whole family will be resettled in Norway. And he's there now. 2 weeks ago, the whole family moved to Norway. It's like something that is completely, for me, too good to be true. I still cannot believe that he has a house, a 2-story house, 5 bedrooms. He has a house overlooking the sea. Zain is going to go to school with all his brothers and sisters very soon now. He's starting to learn the language, to adapt. And so, yeah, it's a very nice story. And also, it's not easy because the situation of each family in the film or each child is very difficult. Most of them don't have papers, so it's very difficult to become or to have a normal situation. So in the case of Treasure, also because she was illegal in the country, they had to also go back to Kenya. So now she's back in Kenya with her mother. She's going to go to school. At least she has papers. She has an identity. She's going to go to school very soon. The situation is not perfect. It's not ideal, but I mean, it's one step at a time. One step at a time. We're trying to figure out how to use this film in a way that it doesn't always only help the kids of the film, but as many kids as possible. Even if it sounds a bit too naive to think that a film can do something, but I'm hoping it will create some kind of debate where we can be able to talk and think and try to find solutions.
Are there more questions from the audience? Yes, just in the sort of break row right here. Yep. So in the film, you have a lot of anger and resentment because of the situations. And initially, that's directed at the parents. But then eventually we understand that they are also victims of the same system. So the question is, I guess, how would you like people watching the film to direct this anger? What are you hoping for people to kind of receive out of this?
This was a very important point that I needed to convey in the film, because I myself was in the same situation. This is the first, and I'm sure a lot of people have the same reaction that I personally had when I used to go on the research and enter these apartments and try to understand and talk to people and to families. Sometimes I would go into an apartment, just knock the door, a 3-year-old kid would open the door, then I would go inside, I see another one and another one and another one, left alone the whole day with nobody to care for them, and just them taking care of themselves. And I used to wonder, where is the mother? How can she do this? With a lot of anger, a lot of judgment. How does she do this? Where is she? Where is the father? What is this situation? This is completely unfair to these kids. And I was the first one to be judgmental. But then it always, every time, when I used to wait for the mother, or sometimes I was just to come back to talk to the mother and see and talk and understand. And it always took me 5 minutes to just be completely blown and receive a blow, because I used to think, how do I allow myself to even judge? I've never been in this situation. I've never been in this mother's shoes. I've never experienced what it feels to leave your baby alone and close the door and go to wherever work, or how can I allow myself this? So for me, it was the court scene was very important, because for me, this court is us, society, being very judgmental, and the judge is us, judging. So it was very important to give those parents this moment where they look at us and tell us exactly what they feel and who they are and why they do what they do. And the scene where she's looking at me, the mother is looking at me and telling me, who do you think you are? I specifically wanted the scene to be there, because I wanted her to just spit out in my face everything she felt towards me. And this is not a scene that is scripted. Kausar, and her name is Kausar, is exactly in the same situation. Until now, she's not able to register her children, and until now, she used to give her children water and sugar because she didn't have enough money to feed them. And I understood that they are as much as a victim as their children are, and everything. They're all victims of a system that is not allowing it and not allowing anything good to happen. It's a vicious circle that is repeated from the fathers and mothers to the parent to the children, and Asad in the film is saying, but she got married. Of course, I think I can marry her at 11 years old because her mother got married at 11 years old. And it's the same vicious circle that we are not able to get out of because everybody is a victim there. So this is what I wanted you to feel, this roller coaster of positions and emotions and sentiments that it's not black or white. We just need to understand why. This is why the question is out there. How can we solve it? I'm not saying the parents are the guilty. I'm not saying the parents are guilty. I'm just saying there's a problem. This is the problem. We have to acknowledge it. How do we solve it?
Well, I think you've gone a long way to helping us understand the problem, and thank you so much for helping to transform the way we see this. Thank you all for coming. Congratulations again.